and welcome back to my channel. It's finally not a end of the year favorite albums video. Whoa, who would have thought? I've actually been wanting to make this video for a while. I thought it would just be an easy way to talk about some of my favorite albums that I really love, and I was inspired by some channels I've watched going through their like vinyl collections, like vinyl update kind of videos, and I don't know, I just like how they're like intimate kind of chatty videos, and I wanted to do something similar, except I don't have vinyl unfortunately, but I do have a pretty decently sized CD collection that I've been growing since like the beginning of high school. I think it's a pretty cool representation of like my evolution of music tastes throughout the years. So in this video I'm just gonna be going through a few of my favorite CDs in my collection. It's not huge, but it is about like 50 to 100 CDs in total. So quick backstory about how I first started getting into CDs. I used to be a huge CD fan and bought CDs all the time from like record stores in the city or just like Target or Amazon, and I bought them because I thought they looked cool, but also because I actually was able to use them back in the day. I would literally upload the CD into my iTunes on my laptop and upload it to my iPhone or my iPod Classic, which I did use for a fair amount during high school as well, but I guess these days I don't do that at all. I just use like streaming platforms obviously, but I do still buy CDs sometimes just because I think they're a cool novelty to have, and I think I definitely think it helps support artists more than just streaming does. But other than that, I don't really buy CDs much nowadays, so my collection is not completely dead yet, but just growing very, very slowly at a time. On that note, I did pick 10 CDs to go through, like my top 10 favorite CDs in my collection, and that is because I did not want to go through all like however many I have. So I basically chose these 10 albums according to 3 specific criteria, and those are, it has to be one of my top 50 favorite albums of all time, which sounds like a lot but is not really that much. If there is a cool element of the packaging, like if it comes with something cool, or like it's just like more than just like a piece of paper with a CD in it. And the third thing is I likely have a very sentimental memory attached to the time and place that I got it. So with all that being said, let's jump into the CDs, and these are all in no order. Okay, the first one is going to be this little guy. So original, I know. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, Nonagon Infinity. This album, basically I just got like really obsessed with in high school for some reason, and it was really like left field for me because I only really listened to like indie rock and pop and rap at that point, and like I had no idea why I like fell so in love with this album, but it was pretty mind-blowing to me. Just like the experimental like psychedelic rock and the way that the album like loops into itself, like I just thought was so cool. I got this at a store that does not exist anymore, but it was my favorite record store when I first started getting into music. It was called Other Music, and yeah, I just remember going there all the time with my brother on our like little city trips, and one time we were there and he threw this album down in front of me while I was looking through the shelves, and he was like, I found this in the used CD section, so it was cheaper than if I were to buy it new. And I was like, whoa, because the album like just came out at the time, so somebody like bought it and then immediately returned it, I guess, but it's in perfect condition. So I was like, I definitely have to buy it, and I was just like really obsessed with this album. So yeah, it was very very coincidental. This is definitely still my favorite King Giz album and one of my favorite albums of all time. I'll never forget this being the gateway into my King Giz obsession. Next one is gonna be this, Mr. Mellow by Washed Out. This is one of my favorite albums. I believe I got it at Rough Trade in the old Williamsburg store before they moved, but I was really obsessed with this album at the time, and I know that Washed Out is kind of like a starter pack indie, like dream pop kind of artist, but I like love him, and I think, you know, all his music slaps. This is my favorite album from his in particular. I think I really resonate with the themes and lyrics about like being super existential. And also, when he was touring for this album, that was the first concert I had ever been to by myself, and I had a very good time and a very spiritual experience. One very cool part of it is that it comes with like 2 CDs. One is the album and one is a like visualizer of the album, so it's like all the songs with like really colorful, trippy graphics and stuff. I don't have any other CDs that come with like a visual disc in addition to like the audio album, so yeah, I thought that was really special, and I just really love this album and this CD and the store that I got it from, which I miss dearly. So yeah. Next up we've got this Product by Sophie. So the way that I started getting into Sophie, like for the first time, was actually through an app called Indie Shuffle, which I used to use like religiously and discovered so many artists on. And I had first heard the song like MSMSMSM and BIP on that app, and I just remember being so like fucking mind blown by how like cool and interesting the music was. I had never really listened to any like super experimental electronic like wonky stuff like that before, and I was just obsessed. I remember listening to those songs like nonstop, and then I went on YouTube and found like other of her singles. I knew that they were like all kind of tied together because of the slides on the covers, but I didn't know that they were like singles for an album or like going to be part of an album until I think I was in Rough Trade one time, and I saw this and was like, no way, like is this like a Sophie album? Like is this all of the songs I like by her and then even more? I was just so hype, and I like immediately had to buy it. I know Sophie's come out with more albums since this one, but this is still like my favorite project of hers. It really like, I don't know, inspired me to listen to more like experimental, like hyperpop kind of artists, and I just think every single song on this album slaps so hard. There's really nothing like it, and I am, you know, honestly still heartbroken and processing the fact that she is not with us anymore, but I know that her legacy will continue to live on through all of the artists that she inspires, and rest in peace to a legend. And next up we've got this guy. I'm pretty sure I got this from Rough Trade back in the day also. This might sound kind of cheesy, but Run the Jewels was probably one of the first like hip-hop artists I ever started listening to. I remember driving to the city with my brother one day and him putting this on and literally just listening to it in the car and being so mind blown by every single song, and literally just, yeah, becoming obsessed with this duo and their sound. I was super hooked on the production, the, you know, epic experimental kind of sound, and obviously Killer Mike and LP are 2 of the greatest to ever do it. It's still my favorite album, Run the Jewels album. RTJ 2 is a close second though. I really love this album, or this CD, just cause like I think the cover is dope. Like I just love the blue and gold contrast, and the inside is really funny too. It like shows all the credits, oh my god, for like who worked on the album, but it says like, you know, this person mixed this shit, this person directed this shit, and I think that's really funny. Also, this CD came with a poster and a sticker pack. The poster is on my wall right now, but I still have the sticker pack that I used up all of, but I don't know why I don't want to throw it away. I don't have any other CDs that have come with stickers, much less stickers and a poster, and I think it's dope because you can, you know, just put them, you know, all over your stuff and see it all the time, and be reminded about how much you love this album. Next up we've got King Krule, 6 Feet Beneath the Moon. King Krule is honestly one of my favorite artists of all time. Love me some Archie Marshall. But no, honestly, this album was so formative to me in my like indie rock phase. I don't know, his music is just so sentimental and comforting to me at this point. There are some certified bangers on this album in particular. Out Getting Ribs, Baby Blue, Borderline, which is my favorite song. I honestly just remember listening to this in high school and thinking it was like the best music to ever exist. It's just so moody and dark and mysterious, and it's just like a big like fuzzy blanket over you, I feel like. It still holds up as my favorite King Krule album. I have loved all of the ones that have come out after this, but not quite as much. I'm pretty sure I got this CD at Other Music also. This was the first CD I'd ever gotten, I believe, that came with a poster, and that was like the first time I was like, whoa, like CDs can have posters in them. I've bought the Ooze and Man Alive CDs also, and they also come with posters, but they're like small, and this one had like a big one. So yeah, I thought it was really special, and I just really love the, you know, the aesthetic and the music. Overall, just a very formative, sentimental album to me, and I got a cool poster out of it also. Next up we've got this bad boy. This has a very special memory attached to it for sure. I got this at the Amoeba in San Francisco when me and my friend took a trip there in 2019, I think. You already know I had to check out the Amoeba. That was like the #1 spot I didn't want to miss. Thankfully, one of my other friends who also lives in California was able to drive us around one of the days that we were there, and of course, you know, we went to Amoeba, and honestly it was just a heavenly experience. I feel most like myself in a record or a CD store, as cheesy as that sounds, but it was beautiful. And I was looking around, honestly didn't have a plan for anything to get, but I saw this, and I think it was like in a used section, I'm not really sure, but it was only $10, like, so it was pretty cheap, and I was like, yeah, I'm definitely getting that. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, but definitely my favorite Daft Punk album. I think I listened to it for the first time in high school and thought it was dope, but then my love and appreciation just kept growing for it over time, and then, you know, Daft Punk became like one of my favorite bands of all time, and then unfortunately they retired, but hopefully, you know, they'll come back to us again at some point. Anyway, love this album. Definitely can't listen to the whole thing without crying. I think, okay, the thing is upside down. The little packet is upside down in the back. I don't know why, but okay. Favorite songs definitely are honestly just Aerodynamic, Digital Love, and Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger, like all in a row, is like the perfect run of 3 songs ever to exist on an album ever. And yeah, so I just have really special memories attached to getting this, and I also have a really nice memory of us listening to Aerodynamic in the car when we were driving on the Golden Gate Bridge, and yeah, I was very content in that moment. And yes, love this album. Shout out Amoeba San Francisco, and shout out Daft Punk, who I hope are not gone forever. Okay, next up we have this one, OK Computer, Radiohead, please don't cringe. I do love this album. I love Radiohead and I love this album. Maybe it's not my favorite Radiohead album because I do love The Bends and Kid A and In Rainbows a lot as well, but you know, this one definitely has some perfect songs in my opinion on it. I got this back in Portland when I went on a trip with my brother to Portland and Seattle. We stayed for a few days and did a lot of touristy but also like local things also. And I remember we went to this record store pretty off the cuff one of the days. The store was called Everyday Music, and to this day it is still one of my favorite record stores I've ever been in. It was pretty big and it just had so much stuff like all over the walls. Like it was just completely covered in like posters, and it had a really great selection too, and yeah, I just loved it, and I hope I can go back one of these days. But I remember looking through the used section, I found a used Wilco CD there that I got for a friend, but then I also picked up this guy for a whopping $2.50. You know, it is a little beat up, but the CD still works. And I remember liking the inside cover a lot because I like rented this CD from a library one time too, and I just remember loving like this specific page, like the first page on it. And yeah, it's just all very interesting little pictures and drawings that have to do with the themes of the album. So yeah, love that. Pretty self-explanatory classic album. Really loved the store in Portland in which it was acquired. Hope I can go back someday. And yeah, Radiohead, good band. Alright, next up we've got Helplessness Blues by Fleet Foxes. This album is very beautiful. I love it so much. I got this CD along with a Glass Beach CD in 2020 over the pandemic when I hadn't bought a CD in a long time, so I ordered this and that CD off of Bandcamp on a Bandcamp Friday in particular, which is the day when Bandcamp waives its cut from like when you purchase music from artists on there. Shout out to my brother for putting me on that. But so I bought this CD and I had only recently listened to the album before buying it, but I mean, like, it's literally one of the most beautiful albums I think anybody could ever listen to. It's just so like elegant and lush and like profound. It's just a very lovely album. So 10 out of 10 recommend. The CD also came with the biggest poster that has ever come in a CD of mine before. It's like a black and white version of the cover. It's currently hanging on my wall, and it is so detailed and like mesmerizing. Like you could just stare at it for hours and like keep noticing new things. But yeah, definitely recommend this album, and recommend buying music on Bandcamp and supporting artists more directly. Next is this, Modern Vampires of the City by Vampire Weekend. Love this album so much. Vampire Weekend was one of the first bands I ever started listening to, like seriously, when I was getting into music and had a huge indie rock phase. The story of how I got this was kind of funny. I remember not having listened to the album before I bought it, but I saw it at Target and I knew that my brother liked this band, so I was like, okay, I'll get it for him for like his birthday or Christmas or something that was coming up. And then I found out that he already had it, so I was like, okay, I'll keep it for myself and listen to it. And I honestly, I want to say I like instantly fell in love, but it was like a gradual process of me being like, this is like really weird and like nothing I have listened to before, and then just like falling more and more in love with it the more I listened. I have a distinct memory of listening to the song Ya Hey and being like, this is fucking annoying. But then eventually I grew to love that song. Pretty much every single song on here like I love for different reasons. Obvious Bicycle and Step are like two of my favorite songs of all time. And yeah, just love Vampire Weekend. I think the cover is really cool too. It reminds me of like 2015 vintage Tumblr blog, but in a good way. Yeah, I'm just really glad that I discovered this album and this band when I did, and it was really like the beginning of my music appreciation journey. So yeah. Alright, so last but not least is another very basic pick, but I don't even care. This was my favorite album of 2015, the year that it came out, and I was high on my indie rock obsession, and Tame Impala was definitely like my favorite band, and still is one of my favorite bands to this day. Well, I guess artists. Oh my god, why did I just call them a band? Anyway, I remember buying this CD from all their music also, and I didn't even listen to it before I bought it. I just bought it and knew that I was gonna like it, and so I remember taking it home, putting it in my laptop and listening to it on my iTunes, and just like being in my room and being so like overwhelmed with emotion because of how much I loved every single song, literally like to the point of tears, like being like, wow, like this is amazing and I fucking love this album. A lot of people don't really like it as much because it sounds, you know, pretty different from Kevin Parker's like earlier stuff, but I think it's pretty perfect. Like I love the more, you know, bombastic, like kind of electronic, crisp sound, and yeah, it just really changed the trajectory of my life in a way. It is still my favorite Tame Impala album personally. Maybe that's a, you know, hot take, but I love it. I love every song. The CD itself isn't that special. It kind of just has the CD in it, but it did come with like a little picture slip of Kevin Parker sitting in a bathtub, which is on my wall currently, and I thought it was cute that I kept the little receipt for it, and if you can see, it says other music in very faded text. Nice little, you know, sentimental artifact of that. Yes. Alright, well, this was a lot of fun. It was definitely very nostalgic to look back on the early days of my, I don't know, music listening journey, and funny to think about what albums I loved so much at the time and thought were the most mind-blowing, amazing masterpieces ever that I just had to have them on a CD. But I'm really glad I have all of them, and it's nice to, you know, look back on. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching. Thank you for continuing to support this channel, in which I only post on once a year, but I am still trying to hopefully do a end of the year favorite albums video like I always do. I just have no idea when that is going to be posted, and it might be a little shorter or different this year, I don't know, but keep a lookout for that. But yeah, until then, hope you enjoyed this kind of video. Maybe I'll do something like it again in the future. But yeah, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of the day and a good new year. And I'll see you in the next one.